Most people think they're too young to have a will. You're not.
So welcome to the Gyms podcast today as well. We've got a really special sort of edition here. We've got a new divisional relaunching, which is not all the time that happens. So Gyms Legal, which people would have seen in the past, has got some new leaders and owners in it. So what prompted you guys to take over Gyms Legal?
I suppose the biggest thing, Joel, was that Jim's brand is huge, and the legal industry has historically always been seen as very difficult to get access to communicate to. Lawyers are seen as people that you go to as a last resort. Instead of trying to help you along the way, they're someone you ring when, it's day 20 of a 21-day timeline or something like that. So that's a major problem. You got a brand like Jim's, which is all about communication and helping. So hopefully two of those molded together can turn into what Jim's Legal and bring Jim's Legal forward.
You said accessibility, which I think is a really good point to point out for people. So what does that mean to you? Because you're probably right. There is something where people think it's that it's too expensive, or I don't even want to go down that path, but they probably need to, and they live to the last minute. So
yeah. Look, I'll touch on accessibility and say that through my time attending university, I attended university law school during COVID, and I found that during that period of time there's a real lack of communication and accessibility to different services, products, and I believe that a brand like Jim's, which is so well known within the Australian marketplace for any sort of service, there's no reason why that can't be brought into professional services. And for legal services, it really is important to bring that to all Australians, right? I think with the mowing brand, it's worked so well because you've got cars on the road constantly, people know the brand, and then that's just taken off every other division exponentially. So for legal services, it's something that everyone's going to need at some point in their life. And I think that if we're able to bring that to everyday Australians, I think that's a huge benefit for everyone.
The first things I should have asked you at the start, I didn't. Introduce yourself. Name, your experience.
Yeah, Brendan Long. Yeah. So I originally from Ireland, as you probably guessed. So I came to Australia on a one-year plan in 2008 and still here. Moved into law in 2009, decided to put my university and qualifications from Ireland into play in Australia in 2009. And I'm still here. I've worked in law since 2009 in various different law firms. And original background from the west of Ireland, from a farming community in County Clare in the west of Ireland.
Dairy farms?
Beef.
Beef farming, okay. Yeah,
beef farm.
There you go. Beautiful place. And what about yourself?
My name is Samuel Braithwaite. I am a graduate law student from the Queensland University of Technology. I've been working for the last 6 to 7 years in debt recovery law and commercial services. So I guess my expertise that I bring to Jim's Legal is, a young, fresh face, as well as, experience through this changing and shift in our society at the moment, where we're going from, traditional old school ways of doing things, and we're reinventing them every day with, technology and tools. So, yeah.
I think our franchisees, they'll be loving hearing you say debt recovery specialist, because that's a big problem that our franchisees have, and a lot of small businesses and businesses have in general. So they'll be really happy to hear that as well. So you sort of covered it in the start, but we'll go through this. What makes then Jim's Legal different from traditional law firms? Because you've worked in them, obviously, you both worked in them. So how are you going to be different, or what is going to be the difference for people?
Well, I think you touched on it just a little bit a second ago as well. When people are afraid they don't know where to turn, they don't know how to turn, or they don't even know there's a problem sometimes. Most people start up a small business and it becomes a medium-sized business because of them, not because of their support systems or anything like that. So they've been winging it. They haven't been doing their tax even, for example, so that they all of a sudden become a medium-sized business with large company problems, such as tax problems, chasing debt. What about a lease on a new premises? They don't have someone to turn to for any of these. They can absolutely do their job. They know how to do their industry really well. They can solve problems specific to the industry. But, they need to do a new lease. They need to get equipment finance sorted. They need advice on all of that. They've also got the tax man ringing them to know why they haven't lodged anything in the last 6 months. They've got an outstanding debtor book, which clients owe them money left, right and centre that they just simply haven't chased. Some of the debts are larger than they should be. They've got demand letters incoming because they haven't been able to get sorted. They don't even know how to deal with it. And the common default way that people deal with it is head in the sand. I'll just keep doing what I'm good at, which is their job, their industry. And then they finally, when something court document gets served or there's no money in the bank, they finally turn to someone, and it's often too late. And the idea is, hopefully, if you can have someone to turn to that you can trust early intervention is key.
Why do you think people then put it off, Brendan? Because obviously you're talking from experience there. You can just tell you've seen this situation many, many, many times. So from talking to those business owners and people, why do you think they put it off?
It's both fear and lack of knowledge. So fear of the unknown. They don't know. Generally, lawyers or any legal assistance is seen as something that is going to be big city, it's going to be big industry, it's going to cost me a fortune. I'm going to ask questions that I'll be afraid to ask the questions I want because they'll be seen as stupid questions, or if I do ask them, I'm worried that they'll be seen as stupid questions. When in reality, when it's your business, there's no such thing as a stupid question if you want to find out an answer. And lawyers should be more accessible. They are more accessible than they used to be, but they should be more accessible anyway because real world problems lawyers deal with every day.
I agree with you, Sean. I think there's a bit of a, Brendan, sorry. There's a bit of a, it's not. It doesn't seem like it's an accessible thing just to call a lawyer. Everyone just thinks as soon as I consult with a lawyer, it's going to be money, cost me an arm and a leg. And as you said, people might think they're asking a silly question and just not even go there. And then they put it off and they put it off. And as you obviously have from your experience, and then they're in a world of pain and they get to you guys when it's too late.
That's it. And the fear is also that I don't want to ask. I might know that somebody else has a lawyer, but I don't want to ask them for their details in case it shows off that, well, I need a lawyer, I might be in trouble.
Right.
So people are afraid to find out and to contact a lawyer because it gives off an impression that you're not successful or things aren't going as well as they should be. When all good companies, all large companies have lawyers, not because they're in trouble, it's because they need them for innovation and all sorts of different things you need a lawyer for. It's not just you turn to a lawyer for a court matter or something like that. You need to get commercial advice on things. And you need to have someone to turn to and someone that you can ask a question of. A 5-minute question might save you an hour of the wrong answer on AI or something like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned AI because I hear that quite a bit now with people thinking they can go to ChatGPT and get all the legal advice they need, which I'm sure you guys probably get a bit now. So what about from your perspective with what Brendan was saying then? Why don't businesses seek the legal advice? Is it just, as Brendan was saying, intimidation, or is it just a fear?
I'd just carry on from what Brendan was saying. I think there's absolutely intimidation, fear is some sort of aspect, but I also think it's more so that there is a misconception, I guess, that lawyers are going to be speaking to you on a different level. Their communication style is going to be confusing. You're not going to be able to understand it. I guess what we're trying to do here, and Brendan will back me up on this, is that our job as Jim's Legal is to speak to you like you're a human, right? Like that we can be on the same level, we can have a conversation about legal services and your issues, or it may not be issues like you touched on, any sort of legal service in a proper way that you're going to be able to understand and communicate with me on the same level. I think there's a huge misconception, well, not so much a misconception, but I think there is a lack in the industry where people are afraid to speak to lawyers because they think that they're going to be sort of bogged down by legal jargon.
That's why we're doing the podcast. I think it just makes you guys seem obviously a lot more accessible and show your expertise as well. Then services. So what areas are you going to focus on? So you talked a little bit about commercial and business matters, but what areas, Brendan, are you guys going to be focusing on as Jim's Legal?
So the reality is that there's not going to be a matter that Jim's Legal won't be able to help you with. The initial focus is going to be on the commercial business side of things, because I think that's where most small businesses and even Jim's franchisees, that's where they're lacking just a half an hour of advice type things, a question that's been missing. They've probably been losing sleep over a letter they got or a problem that they have for a month or two. The focus is going to be initially on the commercial side of things, even on the debt recovery side of things. Get people's house in order first, so that they can look at progression and things like, putting on, making people have employment law issues. Why? Because they've gotten bigger and they have staff. How do you gear yourself up for that? Do you have employment contracts? Okay, you're now so big that you need an office space. Do you need to look at a lease? At the same time, what about your asset protection? Have you got a will in place? Most people don't. Most people should. Most people think they're too young to have a will. You're not. So,
especially as a business owner.
Exactly right. And putting those small building blocks in place so that then if a larger problem happens, so say, an accident on the road, that you have already built up the trust with somebody that you can turn to and ring and say, well, this is my problem, or, hopefully, obviously not a family issue, or go through the family courts, one of the most stressful things you'll do. At the same time, many people will be trying to buy a first house or an additional house, investment house, things like that. The focus really will be on the smaller stuff, get people sorted on their commercial needs, collect your debts, get yourself set up with structures, get your will sorted, get that property purchased, and then be ready and available for the other areas as they come up.
Yeah, because I think we've got 5,500 franchisees, and everything you mentioned, they all would need at some stage.
Yeah. Yep.
I've been here for 15 years, and I've heard of a lot of different things, and they all need this sort of stuff. So I'm hoping that they can, when they hear this, they can feel free to reach out to you guys as well. So, what's your then? Mate, with your services then, Sean, what do you think your difference is in how you're going to approach it from let's say external law firm that you guys have probably worked at? What's going to be your different in terms of service?
Okay, so I'd say number one, our difference is going to be the Jim's Group guarantee. So traditional law firms, it can be, I guess, common to not hear back from lawyers for hours or days on end. Now, as you know, in the Jim's Group, there's a 2-hour call time frame, right? Yep. Number one, I guess, point of difference from the very start is as soon as that inquiry is put through, we're going to be on the phone within 2 hours. You are going to get a call from a Jim's legal representative, which is amazing. In my view, if you can get a call within 2 hours for a legal service, you're doing well. And we are going to be running on the Jim's, I guess, ideology of how things run and everything like that. That's first and foremost. And secondly, I mentioned it earlier, but I think it's really important that people understand that the way that we're going to be able to communicate with clients especially is going to be on their level. We're going to communicate with people, like they are actually, everyday Australians, like we are. Because we're no different as lawyers or solicitors or anyone working in any legal services industry. I think it's really important that people are able to, number one, understand what they need to do, because people will come to us with a problem, not necessarily knowing where the actual crux of the issue is. And Brendan touched on it earlier. As a business owner, you've got so many different things you've got to be thinking about, right? Like you said, leases, or if you're expanding, employment contracts. There are so many things that everyday Australians aren't necessarily going to be thinking of when they approach us. And I think the benefit of, I guess, the Jim's brand is that it's trusted, number one, and that you're going to have the right people doing the right things. And when they come to us, I guess the benefit of it is we're going to give them a full range of services. We're not limiting them and saying, hey, we can manage your lease, or we can, review your contracts, but we can't help with employment related matters. The good thing is it's a full scope services. If we find something else that needs to be fixed or that, needs to be changed or amended, we're going to let you know, and we're going to be able to, do that for you, which I think is really cool, as opposed to, outsourcing and managing 3 different law firms in 3 different areas of law, right?
Yeah, it's a good point. And also the when you speak to them, people who speak to you, they're dealing with the owner of the business.
Yeah.
Which is very not common with this profession, I would say. So people, when they call Jim's Legal and engage you guys, they're going to speak to you. And I think that's a really big thing that people need to know. You're not getting a receptionist or anything like that. You're speaking to the owners of the business. I think that's really, really important as well. Now, you mentioned something before, Brendan, which I want to touch on, because I know a lot of franchisees will do it and people will be doing it. AI, right, with ChatGPT, they would be asking it for legal advice.
Yep.
What's the reality of that, and what's the dangers of doing that?
The reality is that you're going to do it whether I say don't do it or not. And I don't think I'm old, but like Sam here would know a lot more about AI than I would.
It's great for emails.
Yeah.
Internally, that is.
Yes.
Really good to give you a base as to what to say. But relying on AI to win you your case is not the way to go. So at the moment, you've got, the New South Wales and Victoria and the Supreme Court, the highest courts in each of those states have already come out with directions as to you, if you were to swear an affidavit in New South Wales now, the first sentence of that is that AI has not been used to generate any part of this affidavit.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying that's complied with, but that is now put in there. And it was because it went from not just people representing themselves using it, lawyers were using it, and the content was wrong. So AI obviously trolls the internet and pumps out an answer to you. The problem is, whatever way the sources it's pulling from, it might pull an English case or an American case, or it pulls cases that don't exist.
Or not relevant.
Or not relevant, exactly, on the point. So the problem that some of the judges, so coming into court, you're handing over your material to the other side, everyone's looking for a case that doesn't exist. And you're going to lose your case because you've relied heavily on this particular matter and the facts look great, but it doesn't exist, so you've nothing else to fall back on. And not alone, there's obviously the embarrassment problem, and you'll be unsuccessful, but you'll probably get costs against you.
I was going to say, I don't think judges would look at that too kindly if you got caught, right?
So that's the biggest problem. So AI can help guide you in the right direction, but you got to double and triple check and cross-reference and just ring a lawyer, I suppose. But
I think just ring a lawyer because I think the Big Four accounting got engaged to do something with robo-debt, and the actual consulting report that the government paid for, so taxpayers paid for, had cases in there, but it had quotes from cases which were completely made up. And then the Big Four submitted it to the government, right? So this is how bad it's getting, right? So I presume that as you said before, if someone gets caught doing that, it's not going to look good in your favour.
It's not going to go in your favour. You're hurting your own case, a case which could be very good or very winnable.
Yeah.
And you've also got a problem that in court, generally, the loser pays the other side's costs. So you're up for costs as well. Now, AI can be great to help point you in the right direction or to give you information on something you know nothing about, give you a general view, and it might give you some specific points, but actually fact-checking on the AI answers is that extra half an hour or an hour spent double, tripping, checking, check that reference, Google the reference itself on its own and see what comes up, maybe nothing.
You're probably going to save a lot more time just going to you guys in the first place.
Yeah, exactly,
So I think that as well. So with yourself then getting into the legal industry, why did you get into be a lawyer?
That's actually a really good question. I'd say, look, I never necessarily wanted to be a lawyer when I was younger. Obviously, it's no, small boy's aspiration to be a corporate lawyer. But as soon as I, finished high school, it was really a natural progression for me. I've worked in our family business now for 6-7 years in legal, debt recovery legal, and it was just a natural progression for myself. I think for me it's quite rewarding to assist businesses, and it doesn't come across that way when you hear debt recovery, right?
Yeah.
But there's two sides to that coin. We help SMEs across Australia collect funds, recover assets, that haven't been paid for, and in turn we're saving those businesses, right? Because a lot of the times, and Brendan touched on it earlier, we see businesses fall over all the time. Insolvency statistics, where they've gone into liquidation, they've got $500,000 in receivables, and sometimes we look at it and we go, this could have easily been avoided if you were able to collect, your assets or your money, or just, conduct your business protocol in the way that it's supposed to go. And I guess our whole goal at Jim's Legal is going to be not only assisting with legal services, but implementing strategies for businesses so that they don't fall into the trap of, like I said, leaving invoices unpaid or, opening themselves up to liability in terms of their contracts or employment agreements. But yeah, that was, I guess, my natural progression into it. And went off and studied at university in Queensland. And now Jim's Legal, the opportunity arose. I think I saw the Jim's brand and see how trusted it is. And, everyday Australians can see it, right? If you get in your car and you drive to work, you're at least going to see one Jim's van through any division on your way to work. You see how trusted it is for the Australian public. and I thought to myself, why isn't that accessible for professional services? It should be, because there's a standardized, I guess it brings in a standardized, base level of what service should be provided. And you can see that through every other division that Jim has. The protocol and safety procedures and compliance is so, it's top tier that there's no reason why that cannot be put into professional services. And legal services is, for me, it's one of the most important, industries that there is, because it protects businesses and individuals, that is.
Absolutely. And what about you, Brendan? Why did you get into it?
Yeah, the answer really is I don't know. So I finished what you'd call high school in Ireland at 16, moved off to university, just picked something that seemed like it would be good. Went through that, seemed to do all right, got through it, left Ireland in 2008, GFC. There was, I think, 240,000 young people left Ireland across about 4 years, which was a huge drain. And then got to Australia, similar type personality traits between people. And I ended up just starting work in a law firm simply because that's where I had a degree. And then worked out that I really like talking to people. And then I started to work out that when I talk to people, I could actually probably help them. So I never started out as someone that was trying to say, I really want to help people and I'm a big environmental person and I want to save the world and all of that. But it was more of a gradual progression where I ended up I worked out that I had some skills, including communication. And then when I communicated, I could help them. And before I knew it, I was knees deep in a law firm, working away, helping people, and really enjoyed it. So never really could tell that there was a moment where that's what I'm going to do.
And Sam, where do you both mentioned it briefly, but where do you think businesses can, if they don't have a lawyer, where can they look to improve their businesses? You mentioned things about, staying on top of your debts and other items as well. Where do you think businesses come unstuck, or where should they look to improve?
That's a good question, because it's a very broad question.
It is a very broad one, yeah. But you've mentioned a bit of it before, but I just want to get to P, because we're going to have a lot of franchisees and small business owners that hope, and medium business owners that watch this. So that what make them aware of some stuff that they're probably maybe not aware about their own businesses.
Okay. So we'll go back to the start, and I will mention receivables and debts first, because that's my expertise. I'd say that number one is you need to have your invoice terms sorted out, and you need to have either a referral partner or an internal, employee or person managing those accounts and invoices. I see it happen every day of my life where businesses come unstuck because they're relying on one large invoice to be paid so that they can pay 5 suppliers. And we see it all the time. That one large invoice gets delayed by 30 days. These 5 suppliers are going, we need our money. And it's a flow-on effect, right? Those 5 suppliers are then having to wait on this invoice to pay their clients. I see it all the time, and then someone pulls the trigger and this man goes down. So I'd say number one, managing invoices and receivables is number one business practice. Making sure that you're getting paid on time every time. And if you're not, then having a trusted referral partner that you can have for debt recovery or debt management. Secondly, I'd say in terms of legals, I'd say contracts need to be airtight. They need to be rigid. In terms of employment contracts, same thing, as well as supplier contracts and third-party contracts. The biggest thing, and Brendan touched on it earlier, is especially third-party supplier contracts, you want to have the terms in that to be able to recover your money or assets and or have an exit strategy. I think that's really important. And we deal with this all the time with financial clients per se, where they need to recover assets quickly or pull out of the contract so that there's no further loss. And I guess our job in Jim's Legal will be to make sure that that is implemented from the start so that this issue doesn't come to a head and then we're trying to pick up the pieces at the end.
Yeah, from hearing that, I know that a lot of franchisees probably don't have that stuff in place where they have the payment terms and they have all that stuff sorted out. So I would say if you don't have that, get in touch. And what about from your perspective, Brendan?
So most business owners, especially people that work on their own or in a small team, they go into a job and they know where's the fire exit. In mowing, they might know, well, here's my safety concerns today. You know, the dog wash people, they'll put your cones up to make sure you don't get run into and all of that. All about making sure of safety. So the other way of looking at a job from our point of view is, have you covered your arse today? What have I done today? So the manual stuff, you know, because you're trained in it, the safety stuff. Wear goggles while you're whippersnipping. Of course, you know that. But the other side of it is exactly what Sam has touched on is, well, there's no point doing the work today unless you're going to invoice it. Don't let it sit there and not invoice it. And then what if you didn't chase it? But then you finished the job and you worked out, oh, well, I didn't actually hadn't any written terms. There wasn't even a quote on this. I haven't set myself up for success here in any way whatsoever. So you've done the job properly. That's not in question. It's all about making sure, did you cover yourself in all the other areas? So even then, the trickle-on effect of those 5 people that are chasing you for money, a company can get liquidated for a debt of $4,000. That's the threshold, which is not a lot of money. You're killing yourself if you're not setting yourself up for success. So it's not just the manual labour and the easy stuff. It's not even difficult to train your brain separately to go, how have I avoided liability on the paperwork side of things?
I think a lot of franchisees who might be hearing this going, geez, I don't have that stuff in place. So just get in touch, because it's really, really important. Because you're right, a lot of our franchisees, a lot of small businesses, they're great at what they do and they're really hard workers, but it's that other things, what you're saying, having the payment terms set up, actually chasing and doing these things if they need to do it, and being set up for success, so they don't get taken advantage of.
And it's just training yourself. Yeah. It's like everything. The first month it'll be, I forgot to send the terms. And eventually after a month you'll send them all the time. It's like everything. It's like riding a bike. Once you know how to do it, you'll keep doing it. It becomes the method and the process.
And that's the thing. They can contact you once, and then they can get all this stuff set up in place and the proper advice, and they know that moving forward, and they have a far better business as opposed to waiting 5 years and trying to go down and do all this thing in place. So get it done from the start. I was going to say as well, then, what's the biggest myths about lawyers then, Sam, from your perspective? Because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of jokes. There's a lot of, there's a lot of different things about lawyers. So.
I'm gonna stick to the status quo of what I've been speaking about all morning, and then it's the communication. I think there's a myth that lawyers aren't approachable. You know, they stay inside their, tall towers on Eagle Street or wherever they may be, and they're hard to communicate and negotiate with. We're debunking that myth at Jim's Legal. Our goal is to speak to anyone and everyone on their level and be able to communicate with people properly so that they can understand, number one, what we're doing, and number two, how we're going to do it. Some people don't necessarily need to know how because they don't want to. But from our perspective, we want to be able to communicate with everyone and debunk that myth that lawyers are difficult and speak in their own language.
Well, I definitely think there's a bit of a barrier. I think people just think, getting a lawyer, having a lawyer, my lawyer is for someone who's a rich person.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The myth I would see is that I don't need a lawyer. There's a huge group of people that think either I don't need a lawyer, period, or I don't need a lawyer because I can do it myself. If you can do it yourself, you should be a lawyer. Otherwise, you're just killing yourself.
ChatGPT is not a lawyer either.
we come across people all the day that are representing themselves and destroying themselves because it's taken up all of their time from what they're good at, firstly. And secondly, the case they're running is either wrong or they're hurting it. So you're losing both ends. And what if someone is not doing it, so they're working an 8 to 5 job, and then they're running their own case or running their own matter or thinking about it. What time of the day they're doing that? That's family time. Or that's relaxation time, or they're not going to the gym anymore, or whatever it is. You stop playing sports. Why? Because I got to do 3 hours of prep for I got to look up how to do a will. Just calm.
Do you think it's an Aussie thing because they're too proud? Because in America, for example, you always hear the person say, I'm going to get my lawyer. Everyone's calling a lawyer. They've all got their own lawyers, right? Whereas, do you think just Aussies are too proud sometimes to maybe ask for that advice? Or why do you think that is?
What do you think?
I would think not. Like, America is quite open to lawyers because there's so much personal injury and compensation claims, and it seems like everyone will have a lawyer on tap, and the lawyer will take the call happy because, well, they'll probably fall in a supermarket next week and there'll be a personal injury claim in it or something like that. I think it's more of a slight guardedness. So Ireland is the same. It's kind of like you keep your powder dry. Tell no one what you're doing. Tell them nothing. Keep it inside. We'll deal with it. So if 5 guys are standing around a barbecue, who's going to be the first one to say, I have a lawyer, I'm talking to a lawyer? You don't want to be seen as that guy that needs a lawyer, or because either they'll slag you off because, whose money bags over there are going to a lawyer all the time, or what's he in trouble for? Oh God, he's dodgy. It's neither of those things.
Yeah, true. No, that's a very, very good point. Services then. So you mentioned before debt recovery. So services,
Sam.
what do you guys can offer and what can people come to you for?
Yeah, so like Brendan said earlier, we're not withstanding any services, but just to name some off the top of my head, you've got wills, estates, conveyancing, so property purchasing, then debt recovery law, commercial contracts, contract review, employment contracts, and then anything else you can think of.
Awesome. And when you mentioned one there, which I asked you, Brendan, about conveyancing. What can go wrong with conveyancing if you don't get it done right? Because it's a very competitive industry, conveyancing, and everyone in conveyancing seems to compete on price, and people, just go sometimes the cheapest thing, which is probably not the best thing. So, what can go wrong in the conveyance process?
Well, you either lose your money or your house. Is realistically, it's going to be often. For most people, it's the biggest thing they'll ever buy in their life, both from a move, you're buying a house, and realistically, the day you move into a house is the day you're going to be paying the bank for 30 years. It's a big transaction. So many are over $500,000 now, which is inconceivable to think that, that you can afford that and it's going to be spread out. So problems you've got are that you bought a property that's not suitable because you didn't look at the fine print. The communication wasn't clear that, well, did you get a building and pest report? Did you understand what an easement was? So there's a power line, you want to put in a pool, but there's a power line underground out the back that you were told about, but in language you didn't really understand. And you said, yeah, go ahead, go for it, sure, that's fine. So you missed the mark. Or even the fact that you signed a contract and you missed the finance clause and now you can't get finance, but it's unconditional. And now you've got to try and go through with a property purchase that you can't afford. Or of course, then there's the whole idea that, is your money safe? How is this transaction happening? Can I trust the person that is going to be is it still, are we running around with a bag of money? Is it a check? What's going on? It's electronic now. But what can go wrong is that money might end up in the wrong hands. And the property you bought is not the property that you thought it was because of the fine print or things that were in plain sight you didn't know and didn't understand, or you were afraid to ask a question.
And I was going to say as well then, with growing this thing then, Sean, how are you guys planning to do that and what's your hopes for it?
Yeah, look, so our vision for Jim's Legal is that many different, people from different walks of life can be involved. I guess our goal is over the next 5 years, we want to be set up nationally across the country with more than 20 offices. We want to be able to provide, existing law firms and, people who are aspirational to join our cause and jump on the Jim's Legal bandwagon, I guess. And, not just keep it, tight within Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth.
Yep.
We want to be able to expand to regional areas and provide access to, legal services everywhere. Which is, exciting for not only us, but everyone.
So just to be clear, are you guys franchising it? Or?
Yeah.
You are? Okay. Now this is quite exciting. So franchising and legal, it's not something that people would generally think. That people would think, you join a law firm, you become a partner. A lot of people would want to go out on their own as well, but don't know how to start. So is this sort of sitting in between that gap where if you want to go on your own, you're working at currently a legal firm, whereas you want to go on your own, but you don't know where to start, whereas Jim's Legal could be the option for them to go into with the brand. You've got all the systems, you've got all the experience set up. That's where it sort of sits, or?
Yep, that's pretty much it. Right. You might be blocked at the firm you're in at the moment. There might not be space. You want a challenge as well, of course, but that's exactly where it would fit. There is opportunity across the board for coming into a system that definitely works, but that you can grow your own brand within the brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I want to be clear for that in people, because I think it's important, because a lot of people want to go out on their own, but in a market like today, there's just so much competition for people's attentions, and you've got to establish, if you're an independent lawyer, you've got to establish a brand name from the start. Right? You might have some existing clients that know you, but to get new clients as a new person, it can be very, very hard. Whereas with this, they can come under your Jim's Legal banner, have the instant brand recognition there as well, plus a captive market in terms of the franchisees, plus everything else they get from you guys in terms of support. I think it's a really good, accessible option for someone who wants to try and, I guess, de-risk some way that journey of going to being independent. Is that sort of how you see it?
Yeah, and also, like we touched on, stick to what you're good at. The lawyers are not good at growing their own business because we don't know about Google AdWords or marketing side of things.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we there are lawyers out there who are really good at their job, really good at communication, really good dealing with people and problems, but are stuck because no one knows.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And just on from what Brendan said earlier, if you are, if you're a person out there looking to become a, Jim's Legal franchisee, and, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, why would Jim's open legal? It doesn't make sense. Jim's is historically mowing and cleaning and dog wash and termites or whatever it may be. You mentioned it earlier, but you said something that resonated, and I think it'll resonate with everyone else, is conveyancing already exists in Jim's conveyancing, right? Property purchase and conveyancing is going to be the largest transaction you'll probably do in your life. People are already trusting Jim's conveyancing, right? With their conveyancing and their property purchase and sales. There's no reason why every other facet of law cannot be involved in this. So I guess that debunks the question of, is a, white collar service or a blue collar service Jim's?
Yeah. Well, when we do this, we're going to get some detractors online, because that's the case sometimes, unfortunately, in places like LinkedIn and stuff. And I can imagine some of those comments. You're going to get some people who are for it. And I think if they listen to this interview, they understand that this is a really good idea. But you're going to get some of the detractors, right? You might get someone from a 20-year law firm who just, whatever. So what would you sort of say to that then, Brendan? Like some of the detractors who might be doubting it, or they sort of don't think that maybe the brand fits with legal services, or...
Well, some of the answer was in your question. 20-year lawyer asking questions about something. I mean, so telling someone 5 years ago that AI would even exist, for example, 20 years ago there wasn't Facebook, YouTube was probably just about around, no LinkedIn, all of these different ways of communication, which are now completely standard and normal. So the idea that you can't move with the times and provide a service in a different way is you're far from reality if that's the case. And what you really get with the Jim's Group is communication. So why in the legal industry is there such a fear of communication and good communication in a language that you understand? So we've used mowing, for example. So if you're a Jim's mowing guy and you're out, you have a phone on you. You're on your phone. Your phone is your business. But the emails on your phone are not your business. But why would a lawyer be afraid to send a text message or a WhatsApp or communicate in a way that their client wants it? So we talk to clients and I'll say, we'll send you a client agreement. What's your email? He said, they'll call out, they'll kind of have their hand across the phone a bit, and they'll be calling out to their wife, and Mary, what's my email address again? They don't even know their own email address. Why? Because they never use it. It's not that their text, their phone, they're face to face. So the reality is most people want communication the way they want it, not the way that their lawyer tells them they want to communicate.
That's a great point. And I think the brand is synonymous, over 40 years, millions of jobs are just with good communication and good service. It doesn't matter what your business is. Could be, we have Jim's Tax, for example. We have Jim's Bookkeeping, things. It doesn't matter what it is. That's what it stands for. And I think for customers listening to this, or just people, just being able to message you guys and get someone, the owner of the business, to respond to me within a short amount of time. I'm sure people have tried to contact lawyers via web forms and stuff and never got a call back, or they get the receptionist and then 2 days later they get a time they've got to be at someone to meet someone. So I think just having the accessibility with you guys is a massive point of difference in the market. And forget what people say online. I think this is going to be something that people really need. Now, real quickly, I just want to talk about then the process. You mentioned a little bit before, Brendan, and I think this is important for people. Someone calls up, or they go on the website and they go, right, I want to use Jim's Legal. Inquiry comes through. Let's just walk them through the process. What happens and how does it all work?
Yeah, well, we'll ring them, find out there'll obviously be some information given. I've got, I heard the podcast. I realised I'm 45 years of age and I don't have a will. Can you help me? Bring them up. Absolutely, we can help you. Send you a checklist. What way would you like to see it? Do you want to come in? Want to talk through it? Is a video call convenient for you? What's the best way to talk to you about it? And find out then as well. So what prompted the will? Oh, well, we've had this accident at work. Okay, have you done something about that? Oh, my employer is dealing with it. So try and find out more than just the task that they're ringing about. Try and get to know the person, because there might be a claim that needs to be made through work and there's quite tight time frames on that. But then to tidy that up, we might need to get some contracts in place to get sorted. So it's not just a case of a task driven, tick, we've done that job, we'll never deal with you again. Try and get them involved and try and be a part of someone, enterprise, so that they know, someone that is there
Yeah.
if they need help.
Absolutely. And then, like, everyone's going to go costs. Like, people, there's always things like billable hours and all that sort of stuff. So how does the cost and how does that sort of work in this area?
Well, there will be services that are going to be a flat rate costing, such as your wills, conveyancing stuff. But in regards to, commercial disputes and litigation, that is very case by case. And we're not out there saying that we're going to be the cheapest or the most expensive. I think we're just going to pride ourselves on just doing good, hard, honest work and getting the job done, I guess.
Yeah, and everything discloses up front.
Of course.
Being upfront on the costs. Yeah. This is what we expect the cost. Do you want to go ahead or not?
Yeah. And that's the thing that's the important things. They might put people off. They think even in contacting you might cost them money, people, that's not the case, is it?
No, the initial...
No.
Absolutely not. We'll have a consult. Because it could be a 5-minute chat where you work out you don't need us because we've answered a question that you thought was... a 10 grand question, we say, oh no, that's not right. The law's changed. This is what it is now.
I think that puts a lot of people for even contacting lawyers is literally they might think to even speak to you guys, they have to pay money or something up front, which I think...
that's not true.
Oh, good.
No, and generally that's not the case, but also the idea is if you need a service, we'll tell you what we think it'll cost, and then it's up to the client or the consumer, happy with that, or no, I don't think we can go ahead. And then there's no bill.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say go ahead, and also we don't get people to say go ahead and then they're waiting at the end of the month. Is there a bill coming? How much is it going to be? It's going to be awful. No, the bill will be within whatever the range we said it was going to be.
And I think people should also know there's a rule. You mentioned it before previously, but I just want to touch on it again because I think it's important. Is the customer service standards. We've got a complaint system, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're going to get complaints, but we do have a complaint system, and I think people don't understand how strict that is. Whereas Jim himself sees all the complaints, so. If people do have issues, there's recourse here. Whereas if you have let's say if it's an external law firm and someone goes to, like, what's the recourse from besides, they've got a complaint, like, is it an internally dispute? Like, it's, for me, they've actually got to back up with you guys and all the Jim's divisions in terms of getting that support if they do have a dispute or some issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of internal compliance that we must abide by, and strict, I guess, guidelines that we need to follow internally here at Jim's.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just even getting a call back quick, I think that's going to hopefully be a massive point of difference in the market, which we've got down here as well. Now, we mentioned you are selling franchises, so if someone wants to become a franchisee, what's involved with it, and what would you sort of recommend they do?
So obviously. Call
or
do the online inquiry through, and we'll be in touch with them straight away. Just to get a feel for, do they want a business or do they want to work in a business as well? Or do they like the idea of it, or are they willing to put in the work? Because there is some work involved. Are they the right person?
That's a big one.
Do you communicate with people? Do you have the right demeanour? Or are you just really good at being a lawyer? There's very different things. You might be a really good employee, but are you ready to communicate, freely with people? Are you going to be upfront with people, or are you going to say, oh yeah, someone rings with a question and you email them the answer, and then they want to ring you and talk about the answer, and you say, oh no, just put it in writing. That's what the last thing that people want. But if you're not that type of person, then absolutely get in touch. Happy for to have a chat and see if there's something. It could be something that you want to set yourself up for. Obviously, it's not a decision that's made overnight. What are the preparations we made to get to here, and if we can pass on anything to help them out.
And what sort of training's involved then? Because you're down here for the new franchisee training.
Yeah.
So do you want to just tell them maybe a little bit about the training they have to do?
About the Jim's training?
Yeah, about the Jim's training. Then is there anything on your end they're going to do with you guys as well?
Oh yeah, so absolutely. So there is a requirement for any new franchisees, obviously, to come down here to Jim's national headquarters here and conduct a 2-day generic training period, which is quite intensive and full on, right? 9 a.m. till 5.
Yes, 9 to 5 each day. It's quite busy, yes. A lot of information.
Sort of going back to school a bit. So there's that, and then obviously there's going to be a plethora of guidance, support and training and onboarding from our perspective, because it will take a bit of time, I guess, for a new franchisee to adapt to the new way of doing things, especially in regards to communication. We're going to be very strict on communication, making sure that any new lead or client is called within that period of time, that first 2 hours. But yeah, there'll be definitely training from Jim's and then from us as well.
And you mentioned before something, Brendan, about the do you want to run a business? I think it's a key, because you probably see it as well. Lawyers are great at being a lawyer, but then there's a business aspect. So what should they go in with their eyes wide open in regards to running a business? What would you sort of advise them?
It's not a 9 to 5. And that's not to say that it's a 7 to 7, but it might be a 7 to 8, 10 to 11, and then a 1 to 5. So it gives you the flexibility. If you're looking for flexibility, but you're still willing to do the work, it just might vary the time. If some people can adapt, they have to have a rigid structure, and that's fine. But being able to run a business means you have to be flexible, because you got to be able to run something and go.
And what about, and also the proactive nature, I guess, of being a business owner? Like, they've got to try and generate some work as well, and get out there themselves too, I think, and doing
especially in law as well. So clients coming to you with an issue, and I mean, on a deal scenario, it's well flagged in advance. You know, you've got lots of lead-in time, but reality is people are late turning to lawyers, so we're doing things last minute, not through our own design, but because the client needs it done late. So you got to be able to be flexible on that and adapt. But then also have the support structures around, so that you can send a text to a wife or a partner and say, "Yep, running late tonight because I've got to spend an extra hour. I've got to get this last document filed," or whatever it is. So, like any business, you do have to have a good support structure around you, as well as being good at your job.
Now, boys, we've gone through a bit. Is there anything else I should have asked you, which I haven't asked you, that you want to maybe communicate or get across?
Not that I can think of. No.
We've covered a lot of things.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
I don't want to keep going around in circles with it. But look, the main thing for people, I think, is franchisees definitely. If you're hearing all this stuff and go, "I don't have this, I need some advice," and just contact you guys.
Yeah, pick up the phone.
Massive thing, because you've just said it's not going to cost you to call them or to.
And the other thing is, don't panic that you don't have all of these, but do something about it. You know, it's not a case of, all right, I'm making a list. I need 10 things done right now. Make the list, yes. We can work through what's to be done now and do, you know, this step after this step. But at least a recognition that you need to do it, make the list. It doesn't need to be a panic, but there should be some organisation.
Even I'm listening to you and I'm going, I don't have a will. I don't have this. I don't have this. I don't have this. No,
Give us a call.
I'm guilty of it. But actually, I've got a question. Actually, we'll ask you. Case study. Is there any standout clients or situations that you've really made a difference in what you do that you can give as an example?
So we had a client come to us last year, so about mid-2024, had been served with a statutory demand, owed about 150,000 to a supplier.
Wow.
Didn't have a lawyer. It was about day 15, and you've got 21 days to reply to this, or you're going to have a liquidator appointed very soon. So we had to go to court. So you can imagine now, this is from the construction industry. A client who pretty much is either high vis or pajamas. That's his two. Like, he's like, what's a court? I said, don't, like, we talked him through. He didn't have to go to court. We go to court for you. You do have to come to my office, and we'll, like, it was pretty intensive. But and he was worried about simple things like, oh, what do I wear? I was like, you wear whatever you want to the office. This is not whatever you're comfortable in, because we're going to go through a few things, and got to the root of the problems. And it was a telltale of some of the things we've gone through. It was just the system wasn't in place. Hadn't chased things. Cash flow was a problem, but we were able to get rid of the demand, through other contexts, be able to organise some short-term finance for him. Also, he was in the business of hiring out some small equipment, which was unsecured, so it was out and about without insurance or even any knowledge that there was no written agreements with these suppliers, so they could have upped with all his equipment. And in the 12 months since we've been dealing with him, they've been so busy that they've had to hire 2 admin staff just to deal with the amount of money coming in and bookkeeping. So 1.5 person, a full-time and a part-time person. And after probably about 3 months of using us intensively, we pretty much catch up for coffee once a month. It's Christmas cards, you know, pretty much that we'll send, because the structure, we've trained the client to be in a legal mindset as to what to look out for, how to cover your backside here, when not to do a job, which was the hardest thing for businesses to do, and the hardest thing for him. He was too helpful. Someone would ring him, he'd go out and do the job, never worry about the paperwork. Now, when he doesn't get paperwork signed, that's an early warning sign. Don't do the job. I'm not going to get paid. So that was a huge one for me, because it was I would say a normal guy. It was a salt of the earth guy that just wanted to do his job.
And normally people like that would just go bust, unfortunately, you know, and then they'd be a bit dejected and stuff. But from that.
And the 4 staff members of his would have had to find other jobs. Whereas now I think he's up to about 10 staff.
Oh wow, so he's significantly grown his business.
Yeah, 2 of them are even admin, which he said he would never hire someone that he couldn't make money off.
Now this is a counterintuitive thing. People go to a lawyer, it's going to cost me money. Whereas this guy's gone to the lawyer, you've got him out of the trouble with that, and I presume you've made him a lot more money than what he would have initially
Yep.
paid you guys.
Correct.
Yeah, I had one last year. Similar to that, there was a company in it was in administration and then under a deed of company arrangement, and they were really bad. They were about to fall over, and the deed of company arrangement was going to fall over. He came to us for advice, and what we did is we ended up negotiating. We actually got third-party forensic accountants in. We all sat in a room. We used our contacts, and then we discussed a plan out of it. And what we ended up doing is refinancing him out of that, using third-party private equity money that our accounting partners were able to source. And then we actually took that company out of administration and restructured it using a different administrator, actually. And what they did is they restructured it, and they were about to, before we got involved, they were about to lay off all the staff. And then, just in the nick of time, we've come in, restructured, refinanced, and put them into a better position. All the staff are still on, everyone's still working, which is a really good outcome within about 3 months.
That's the thing, like you save businesses, right? And that's two examples of saving a business and saving jobs, which I don't think people would traditionally think that's what lawyers do, but you have done exactly that. I'm sure there's many more of those stories too as well. I think the one thing you mentioned too is the network, the people you can put people in contact with. You've obviously got a trusted network of all these different people, and whether it be accountants, you said forensic accountants. You've got a massive network as well that people can
absolutely
leverage off. Yeah,
That's it. I mean, so something like a will is a different type, but we're often firefighters. We're putting out this fire, but we need other people we can trust to help do that.
And that's an everyday occurrence too. It's not once, it's not once off, so it's every day. A lot of people need a lot of different services, and we're lucky enough to have that network of trusted referral partners and people in different industries to us. And back to what you were saying earlier, we stay in our lane. We get those people in because that's their expertise, right? They know what they're doing in that area. And if we're able to connect those two people and be a middleman for that, so be it. If we're able to help them out, that's a win for us.
Last two questions for me. Typical week for you guys, what does it look like?
So Monday I normally do school drop off. So I'll normally quick check of emails probably around 5 o'clock. Up, do the family thing till about 9. By the time I've done all of that, into the office. Then biggest thing on a Monday is making sure all the team is organised. Other solicitors, other staff members, what's come in on the weekend for them, any problems. Try and make sure everyone's comfortable getting started on the week in particular. And then touch base probably Monday afternoon with some of the hospitality clients that we deal with, helping them out because weekend is they're busy. What the problems they've dealt with. Generally try and avoid any of the labour-intensive businesses, touching base with them on a Monday because they're busy doing most of Friday's work that they didn't get around to and getting through on that. And I'm normally home by 4:30 on a Monday. We try and get in, and we've done it 4 every day if we can.
That's great.
And then most other days in 7:30.
Oh, wow. And what about yourself?
A week, I'm usually up at the crack of dawn, up before the sunrise and out on the river rowing, and then I'll head into work at probably 7 o'clock. I like to get in early before everyone's there and just manage emails over the weekend and make sure that everything's running smoothly. Mondays are always, like Brendan said, they're more of an admin day and managing emails, staff members, clients. Tuesday through Thursday can be anything from jumping on a plane at 6 a.m, getting to Sydney or Melbourne, putting out fires everywhere, or attending to last minute negotiations deals, or seeing different clients. But my weeks are very different. I'm either in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane, wherever it may be, which is exciting, but definitely
hard work.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I think the novelty wears off a bit after a while if it doesn't get it flying all the time. And outside of being a lawyer, you mentioned family before, so.
Yeah, I got 3 children and sports fanatics, so watch, still play.
What do you play?
Gaelic football and hurling.
Really?
Yep.
The traditional, okay.
The good Irish sports,
cool.
So we have them across Australia. So state games are coming up in 2 weekends' time, and they're in Brisbane. So hopefully Queensland will win that.
Awesome.
In those. But and I'm involved, coach a women's soccer team, and then all sorts of kids' sport. There's AFL, gymnastics, swimming.
How do you manage your time?
Just good communication, actually. Delegating the duties between my wife and I, and reliance on staff and things, but just just don't worry about things. Don't stress. Let other people stress and worry. You shouldn't stress about things because it's not going to help.
You're much better at that than I am.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what about you then? You mentioned rowing in the morning, so what else do you do?
So I jump up in the mornings and I love getting on the water before the sun rises. It's really nice. We're actually down here in a few weeks for the Head of the Yarra in Melbourne, which is a really cool event. We row from, I think, Flinders Street Station out to Hawthorn Rowing Club, which is really cool.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
But yeah, apart from that, I have my own place with my partner, which was nice. That's not work. That's about it.
Well, boys, thank you very much for your time today. Not many lawyers who do a long form podcast, so I appreciate you doing it. I think it's great, and I think it just shows how accessible you guys are, and hopefully people can get a sense of your personalities and feel much more inclined to hopefully use you guys, because a lot of our franchisees, from all the stuff you said, I'm thinking to myself, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. So it's a lot more accessible to Jim's family as well, and outside obviously of that as well. If you want maybe lawyers who are a bit more approachable and great communication standards, I think Jim's Legal is the way to go. Give us a go. And call 131546, or just Google for Jim's Legal and make sure you put inquiry on the website and follow their socials. And I'm looking forward to what you guys can do. And as I said before, I don't think many lawyers do sit down long form podcasts and show a bit of personality, so we appreciate you doing that. I think it's been great. So good luck with everything you're doing. Hopefully we can see Jim's Legal with 20 offices around Australia, as you said, and being a massive success. So we appreciate your time today.
Thanks,
Thanks for having us.